Now we are learning an essay, which was originally a speech about 250 years ago, given by the first Rebbe of Chabad who wrote the book, the Tanya. And the purpose of this is to open up our minds and our hearts and our priorities, that the main thing we should be wanting is the Moshiach. And Moshiach is going to be a person who is going to change, like we say, the hearts and the minds and the priorities of the Jews and of all mankind, and that all they'll be interested in is doing what they're created to do what the Creator wants, and to realize that there is a Creator. And when you do feel that there's a Creator, then you start to love Him, and your whole entire, how do you say, the horizons of life change totally. You realize that the whole world is an amazing creation. The world is not ours; it's the Creator's world, and it's a really good world, and that people are really good. Every man is made in God's image, and what does that mean? It means that we have to be dynamic and active and positive and creators, like God is a creator, but we have to do it according to God's directions and instructions, and that is the Torah. According to the Torah, 7 Noahide commandments for the non-Jews, 613 commandments for the Jews. But it has to be done when we feel that we're doing it for God and we're not doing it for ourselves, then that gives a whole open and happy way of living our life. Suddenly we realize that our lives are really a part of this amazing infinite plan of goodness that God is presenting to us every single instant. But in order to do that, we have to have somebody to teach us, and that's the idea of Mashiach. So therefore, the Rebbe said that clearly that every leader of Chabad, beginning from the first Rebbe of Chabad, is the Mashiach of his generation. But these are the writings of Mashiach. This is coming to change our, how do you call it? Our paradigms. Oh, it's a good word, paradigms. So suddenly we're thinking about how close God is to us, how infinitely distant God is from us, how infinitely powerful God is, how friendly He is. He's creating us, creating everybody in the world. So I'll just repeat over what I've said many, many times, that the Jewish people, we are the chosen people. We are chosen to tell the non-Jews how much God loves them and how important they are and how valuable to God every moment of their life is. And how nothing in the world happens outside of this wonderful, loving, what is it, challenging plan that God is making for each and every human being. It really is quite incredible. So let's go. Now that we're learning this in order to sensitize ourselves to this. Sensitize, okay. Call Dodi, the voice. Call Dodi, the voice of my beloved. Hine, behold, Zeh, Medalig Alaharim. It jumps over the mountains. This is in the Song of Songs. This is in the song, the Song of Songs. Where is this exactly? This is in the Song of Songs, chapter 2, sentence 8. There's only 8 chapters in the Song of Songs. I advise everyone to open up in your English the Song of Songs and read it through clearly. You won't understand one word. And if you do, you're wrong. Because there's no simple meaning of in this book, the Song of Songs. The Song of Songs is a book of the Torah written by King Solomon. They say the wisest man that ever lived, and it's all allegories and metaphors and hints and etc. What all these similar synonymous words, which are talking about the relationship between the Jews and God and the Jews, and how God took us out of Egypt and He took us to Mount Sinai, and that we abandoned Him, and He looked for us, and we came back to Him. The first temples will built, and then that's the engagement of God with the Jews, and etc. How the Jews can disappoint God, and how God gets mad, but He looks for them, and then we look for Him, and He hides Himself, and etc. and God hugs us and he kisses us and he embraces us, and there's all of these allegories of a love song, the love relationship between God and the Jews and God. Okay, so this is one of the Kol Dodi, the sound of my beloved. Hine, behold, Zebo, it is coming. Medalig, jumping, leaping, Alaharim, on the mountains. Mekafetz, and skipping, Alagavot, on the hills. Right, the sound of my voice is skipping and jumping, or you have a voice skipping and jumping. So, okay, what does this mean? It takes the smartest man in the world to write this, seriously. So obviously, this is not talking in a simple, rock and roll love song relationship. This is talking about the voice of my beloved. This is God. It is jumping on the mountains. We'll see what the mountains are. Mekafetz alagoim, and is skipping over the hills. Shedilug, that God jumped over. Kates Yeshua, the end of salvation. Mitof lamed to Radu Shana. How long were the Jews in Egypt? 210 years. That's Radu. Reish Daled Vav is 210. 210 years. How long were they supposed to be in Egypt? Well, God said a couple of different places that they were supposed to be 400 years, that he cut off 119 years. Other places says it was supposed to be 400 years, 430 years. In any case, God said a big number, 400 plus, and he cut it down. The Jews were not there that long. He cut it down by 190 years, 220 years. Okay, so that God cut down this time the Jews were supposed to be in Egypt. Okay, now let's just start off with one little small thing over here, which is a sort of a big thing. Why did the Jews have to go into Egypt? What in the world was this have to do with Judaism, with religion at all? There is no other religion in the world that has such a bizarre, seemingly unnecessary story. All the other religions in the world, one guy comes along and he says, I have the message. And he has a little bit of problems in the beginning, and then everybody catches on, and that's it. You got 2.5 billion, whatever it is, Christians, and you got a 1.5 billion Muslims, and you have who knows how many Hindus and Buddhists and Shintos and Confucianists and this, excuse me, and the all these different religions, right? And they're all based on one person. And we got the same thing. We have Judaism. We have Moses. So what was wrong with that? Moses could have just come and just, educated the Jews. No. We had Abraham, we had Isaac and Jacob. Okay, that's also good. Well, that's good enough. No. Then they went on to Egypt, and they stayed down in Egypt, and they suffered for 210 years. And then they came out. This is 3,300 years ago, right? And we still believe this stuff. We still believe it. Every religious Jew in the world believes it. And I think most 99% of non-religious Jews also, they believe it happened. It doesn't make any difference to them if it did or not. But nevertheless, they believe it happened. Why not? It says in the Bible, first of the 10 commandments. What's the first of the 10 commandments? I am God that took you out of Egypt. Why in the world did the Jews have to go into Egypt? What possible purpose could this serve? And we see it didn't even work. They were in Judaism, they were in Egypt for 210 years. They got out. They received the Torah on Mount Sinai, like 3 million people. The first commandment is, I am God that took you out of Egypt. The second commandment is, don't worship any other gods. What did they do 40 days later? They worshiped other gods. They worshiped a golden calf. And they kept worshiping the golden calf. In the first temple, they worshiped the golden calf again. There was two golden calves. So we see it didn't really help them being in Egypt at all. What's the whole point? So we're going to learn about this. This is a very important, essential difference between Judaism and lahavdil. Lahavdil means to separate from all the other religions in the world. All of the other, the purpose, the origin, the method of Judaism is totally different than anything else that's on the planet. And one of the reasons is because they were in Egypt. Well, so let's see. What does this mean to us day to day? That the Jews went out of Egypt, that's one thing, but it's only a lesson to us that we also are going to go out of Egypt. But we're not in Egypt anymore. What's wrong with Egypt? Egypt, there's the leader of Egypt, what's his name? Nowadays, I don't even remember, with Ben Sisi or something. Nice guy. Seems like a nice person. Seems like a very capable person. Right? As far as I know, he's not an anti-Semite. He doesn't, Jews can go in there. Somebody just told me yesterday that they opened up the gates again. You can go in without a visa to Egypt now. Visit the pyramids, visit the whatever. So what's the thing? You can go, no, here we can go in, you just go into Egypt, take a plane. They have Air Egypt, I think. You go in, you go out. That's it. We went out of Egypt. We did it. Right? So no, there has to be something a little bit more to it. And we're going to see what that is. We're going to see something this is very, very vital to all mankind, not just to the Jews. Number one. Number two, I just want to make another forward. And the forward is, what is reality? What's reality? According to Judaism, reality is feeling that there's a creator. You feel that there's a creator and that everything is being created constantly. This in no way detracts from science and the laws of nature and things like that. It's an obligation. We have to know how the world works and make it work, for our benefit. But nevertheless, the fact is that nothing is, how do you say, meaningless. No such thing as something meaningless. Everything has meaning. Everything there is in the world has meaning. We just have to discover it. Sometimes we have to reveal it. We have to work on it. As long as a person doesn't know what this meaning is, so it's sort of like, there's a terrible thing, and I hate to bring this example, but it's an example. A person that's a drug addict, a person that's addicted to drugs, they have in America now fentanyl, this whole crazy thing, it's some sort of an opiate. All they think about the whole day is how to get this drug. It's always in the front of their mind, in the back of their mind. That's their whole thing. This one experience. That's all they think about. It's very hard for them to love anybody, to be honest, to be this. When it comes to this drug, that's it. There's no God. There's no anything. There's no meaning. There's no just this drug. That's all that there is. Well, the fact is, so that person is living in a false world. Okay, the way the world goes now, the alternative is not much better than that. But let's not talk about that. Let's say that the man's a happy man and he has a family and has a good job and he helps people and he's a doctor, but he becomes an addict. So he just can't function because he's always thinking about this. Well, the fact is that we are all addicted, everyone in the world, and we're addicted to egotism, everybody. And as long as we're addicted, that's all we think about. That's on our mind all the time, sometimes to the fore, sometimes in the back, sometimes this. And this false egotism that we have, because what's the egotism? Because we think there's no alternative. Just like the drug addict, he thinks there's no alternative. The Rebbe is giving us an alternative, that we can actually think about our creator. And that in fact, we're being created. We're just missing this fact, just like the drug addict is missing the fact that you can live your life without drugs. You can live your life without, getting whatever it is, the high, stoned, coasting, whatever they call it, spending all your money, spending all your time, lying, cheating. It's possible to live in life. Okay, so the Rebbe is trying to take us out of and show us an alternative to egotism. To egotism. And we're not talking about enlightenment or something like that, because that's just big egotism. That's just a different type of egotism. Instead of going after the simple pleasures of the world, you go after infinite pleasures of, enlightenment or nirvana or whatever they call it. So here we go. Let's go. I'm sorry for the long introduction. Let's go. So God, the Kol Dodi, King Solomon is saying that God caused the Jews to jump over the appointed time they were supposed to get out. They get out of Egypt early. Let's understand, what is this idea of Geula, of going out of Egypt spiritually? Like it says, Hoshia lo yamino. That God will, how do you say, put out his saving right hand. Salvation is saving right hand. It's a sentence in Psalms 98. Because see that it says, Tzaddik v'nosha, that God is righteous and he saves. What does it mean he saves? What does he save us from? It's a sentence in Zechariah. But Tzurich Lab, we have to understand, first of all, what does it mean? Before we understand this idea of going out of exile, let's understand what is exile. If you read a Tzurich Aliyah, and this whole another idea that a descent going down, this is in order that we should go up higher. Like it says, Ani eradimcha Mitzrayim, I am going down with you into Egypt. God says this, I'm going down with you to Egypt, va'anochi elcha gamalai, and I will go up. God says it to Jacob. I'm going down with you to Egypt, and I'll come up with you to Egypt. The Kasiv, and it says, this is a sign that I sent you. God says to Moses, I will take the people out of Egypt. Now, nothing bad about Egypt. I just said this about before. Egypt was a country that once ruled over the whole world, and they were very steeped in egotism, super egotism. They were big magicians over there. It was a super licentious country. People had the women had two husbands, etc. Mitzrayim, Tavdun et Elokim, you will serve God on this mountain. This is God speaking to Moses on the burning bush. The burning bush was on Mount Sinai. The Hainu, namely Al Har Sinai and Mount Sinai, besides Mount Torah, at the time of giving the Torah. So what does it mean that God will redeem the Jewish people? He will save the Jewish people. He took them out of Egypt, and we will serve God. God said, I will go into exile with you, and I will come out of exile with you, and you will serve God on this mountain. When God said he revealed himself on Mount Sinai. Panim el panim, face to face. That's what it says. In the book of Deuteronomy, right in the beginning over there. But Tzurich Lahavin, we have to understand, Lahavin said to understand this, Tzurich Lahavin, we have to understand, what does it mean? What does it mean? I will go down with you into Egypt. God's going to go down. Where is he going to go down? Move on, it's not understood. This language of going down, lo shayach is not relevant. Only people can go up and down. First of all, he wasn't down. And then he goes down to there, which is not the case by God. Halokasiv, it says the heavens and the earth I fill. God creates everything. God creates up and he creates down. Everything is being created from nothing. So God is everywhere. How can it be? What does it mean God goes down? So the answer is, Omer is all the rabbis say, we mentioned going out of Egypt. Let me just change the page here. 1 second. How do I do this? How do I like this? Perish, what does it mean? Shekol Galius, that all of the exiles that the Jewish people have been in, they went to Babylon. It says now we're in exile. It says now we're in the exile of Rome. Perish, what does it mean? Goes, that's 2,000 years already. Perish, Shekol Galius, all the exiles, the Shibud, and our slavery, Hadomot, which are like Lilas, they're like the nighttime. 1 minute. Give me a second. Give me a minute. 1 minute. Excuse me. Yes, good. It's good. Similar like Shekol Bechinas Agalus, Hu Bechinas Galus Mitzrayim, that all the exiles that we go into are the exiles of Egypt. The Cain Inyan HaGeula, and also the Inyan of the future redemption. Kativ, it says, like the days of going out of Egypt, I will show you miracles. Just like it was going out, Galus Mitzrayim going out, the exile in Egypt, and hard service, in like cement and in bricks. The Jewish people, that's all they did for like the 210 years or something. I guess maybe it was less. After Levi died, it says there was like 110 years or something. that there was really hard labor. Well, all the time that the tribes were alive, right? The sons of Jacob were alive in Egypt, so there wasn't really hard exile. The exile really began. I mean, they were in exile; they couldn't do what they wanted to, but nevertheless, the hard work really started after Levi died. So that was, I think, 110 years. I have to look up and see. In any case, that time, even one day of it was terrible torture. Okay, but we got out. Stop crying about it. What's this thing going out of Egypt? Says the Rebbe, Cain Bakal Galus. That's the way it is in every time the Jews are in exile, which we are right now. Even though there's nothing similar in the physical world, what we're doing now, the Jews, there's no place in the world now. The Jews are forced to make bricks and build sphinxes or whatever they did back then. And now Jews are completely free. Anywhere you want to, you can get on a plane, you can leave, you can come in. Nevertheless, there's hard service. Now we have to work hard. We're in exile, and we have to work hard in in cement and in bricks spiritually. Like it is written in Raya Mahemna, a part of the Zohar. Chomer da kol v'chomer, belevenim da libun hilchasa. I'll explain this in a second. Ubakol avoda basada de brisa. Says nowadays we have to work in the Torah. The Torah is called the chomer. Belevenim means hilchasa, is the laws. Ubakol avoda basada. This is the brita. The brita is that's the Talmud basically. That's what it means. The more the mission of the Talmud. Learning Torah is a very difficult thing. It's not as difficult as going out in the fields and enslaving, but it depends. Maybe it is. If the purpose of learning Torah is so that you know the truth. Sometimes it's not so easy to get the truth out of the Torah. Okay, so here we go. What's he talking about here? The Rebbe is talking about. Once the Jews were in Egypt, Egypt was the place of slavery. Now the whole world is the place of our slavery. And who is our taskmaster? There's no Paro. It's us ourselves. There's inside of each and every Jew, there's a Paro, and there's an Egypt. And it's preventing us from doing what we're supposed to do. What are we supposed to do? To use the Torah, learn the Torah, understand the Torah, and to manifest the godliness which is in the Torah in the whole world. The whole entire world. It's like you buy a computer, there's nobody can explain to you how you use it. You know, you've got this thing, no one can explain how to use it. So you just don't use it. You know, what do you do? But as soon as you get instructions, then you see it's very nice. You know, it really helps you a lot. You can get all sorts of information you never had before at your fingertips. The same thing is with the world. The world is here, but nobody knows how to use it. You have to know how to use it properly. What about our soul, our power of love, our power of understanding? What we fear, what we're in awe of, what's our goals in life. We have these things, we don't know how to use them. So that's what's it. So that's called exile. We're serving, so to speak, a strange master. We're not serving the creator of the universe. Let's understand this. It says in the Torah that the Egyptians made bitter our lives in Egypt. Now, why are we talking about this? Because this week's Torah portion is called Shmot. This whole book of Exodus, it's called in English Exodus, right? In Hebrew, it's called Shmot. And the Shmot means names. The whole entire thing is talking about the Jews in Egypt. And when they left Egypt, and how after they left Egypt, God gave them all sorts of commandments. They built a tabernacle. What are the garments of the tabernacle? Well, the garments of the Kohen and the ingredients. But the idea is Jews in Egypt and leaving Egypt, receiving the Torah, and what it means to be outside of Egypt. Outside of Egypt means receiving the Torah and building a tabernacle, building a temple. In Egypt means that you're servants of Paro. And the big miracles that there were to go out of Egypt. That's what this whole book is talking about. Let's understand this regarding to us. It says that the Egyptians, they made our lives bitter. Perush ki ha'avot, the fathers of Judaism, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they are the emotions. They gave us emotions of Judaism. Ava v'yira. They gave us love and fear. Abraham especially is loving God. He was the example of loving God and how to love God. Yitzchak was fearing God, power, wanted to change the world. And Yaakov was faith and beauty. Here he says that it's faith, love, fear, and mercy. We'll see how mercy is connected with faith and beauty, but love and fear. Abraham is love, Yitzchak is fear, awe, and Yaakov is mercy. How do we enliven them? How do we waken them inside of us? This Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob inside of us, amochin, by intellect. Shehem chachma bevina. This is thinking and becoming aware of godless Hashem, the greatness of God. Ladat, to know, ki ein od milvado, to know that there's nothing except for God. V'shamayim mimal v'aloros mitachad. Not only is there nothing except for God, there is nothing. All there is God. God is creating everything constantly from nothing. Everything in the world is an amazing miracle that God is creating from nothing. So what does it mean? It means that I'm nothing and you're nothing, and the Zoom is nothing, and the whatever it is, the YouTube is nothing. Everything is nothing. So if everything is nothing, how is it here? Well, who am I talking to? So the answer is everything is a miracle. It's really nothing, and God is creating it every single second to make it something. But if God would stop creating it, we'd feel and understand that the basis of all creation is not energy or atoms or quarks or whatever you call it, or spirit. It's nothing. And everything is a miracle. I'm a miracle, and you're a miracle, and the computer is a miracle. Everything is a miracle. That's what we're supposed to feel. That there's nothing except for God in the heavens and the earth. Lamaylat indicates above without any end, lamata without below, without any stopping, ladalit sitrin to all the directions. Ubaskala, when we understand this is the chachma and the bina, this is the concept and the understanding. When we conceive this idea and we try to understand it, nolda, there's born, minisara, midas ahava, there's love, bekirav kol ish echad bechad, excuse me, inside of each and every one. I just think about this. God is creating you, creating me every second. That's pretty good. That's good. God is giving me my eyes, my ears. What did I do to deserve this? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Here it is, God. I can do, God forbid, I can do all the sins in the world, and God keeps giving me eyes and nose and mouth and creates me. Shows that there's hope. God is infinitely good, and man is infinitely good, but in potential. God is infinitely good, actual. Man is infinitely good, potential. We have to reveal this. How do you reveal it? By thinking about it. When you think that I am being created every single instant, and this is totally against our feeling. You can think about it as much as you want, but you don't feel it. It's an idea. It's written in a book. It's a nice idea. But when you think that it's really true, it's a fact. When you feel this fact, that gives midas ahava, love, inside of each and every person. Wow, God is really good. I'm never alone. God is always embracing me. He's always with me, holding my hand. Excuse me. It became a year and also fear. He called mitzvot Israel. Every single Jew, yeshbo b'chinas ahava, has love and fear in it for God. V'heineim atzmus and neshama. This is the essence of the Jewish soul. Like it says in another place. And when the Jew feels this, then he can educate other people and say, there's a God who's creating you. He loves you. You don't have to steal. You don't have to lie. You don't have to get addicted to things. You don't have to get angry and be aggressive and depressed. Also the Jewish people. Chibur, Kol, and Hashamos, the joining of all of the Jewish souls are called Knesset Yisrael, means the gathering of the Jewish people. This is called Bat Nadiv. The Jewish people are called Bat Nadiv, and what's it called? A generous daughter. Bito Shel Avram Avinu. It says in a midrash that the daughter of Abraham was called Nadiv. That was her name. Because Abraham was an ish chesed. He's a person of love. Mitnadev. He gave love l'kol almost to all the worlds. Elyonim v'tachtonim, to the upper worlds and the lower worlds, and that's why he's called Avinu. He's called Abraham is called the father of the Jewish people. We inherited this feeling of love from him. Of course, it's only in potential. Somebody just showed me on YouTube. I guess this kid is becoming very famous now. There's this little kid. His parents must be from Haiti or something, or Jamaica. And the kid is a black kid, and he's 6 years old or something. I don't know. And he has autism. He has autism. So his parents are like really wonderful people, because they're with him all the time, and they were in these special institutions with him all the time. Which autism is a very, very difficult thing. If a person has children with autism, it's very difficult. So you never know exactly what they're going to do, and they don't know what they're going to do. So you have to watch them all the time. Somehow or other, he got near a piano. A little 6-year-old kid, a piano. The kid can, he can barely walk, and he started playing the piano. And he played the piano, and he heard, this the Beethoven famous, played a bit, and he can play, Mozart, and he plays jazz, and his fingers are just going around. He's playing chords, and you see it, you almost want to cry. Just incredible. To tell the truth, to see how his father talks about it makes me even want to cry even more. To see such humanness in a human being, it gives you hope. But in any case, so the kid knows how to play. He plays piano. Who would ever dream that they usually wouldn't even let him near a piano? He might break it or something. He plays. Now they bring him to all sorts of places. He plays and he plays. There's a potential that he had inside of him that nobody knew about, and it makes everybody happy. Well, every Jew has inside of him a potential to love God and to fear God and to have faith in God and to feel the mercy of God. Every Jew has. And this, when people see it, so it makes people happy. Makes people happy, right? It catches on. Rock me, but it's just like this kid. You have to appreciate music a little bit, and then you appreciate what he says. You don't have any music, so you don't appreciate him. So you have to appreciate, God a little bit, at least. But that's the message of the Jews to the world. It's inside of it's in potential. But because but people have the free choice. The choice is in his hands. That he can transform this potential love of God that he has to exactly the opposite. And he can come to love himself falsely, does not know how to express his love or how to find this true love that God loves us, to awaken it. When you have this true love that God gives us, you feel, listen, I've got this amazing, bank account of love that is never going to go away. I don't have to be stingy with my love. You're able to say hello to everybody and care about other people and what. That was so impressive about this kid I was just talking about, how much his parents really love him. It's just really, it's really something. In some ways, I think that they have a bigger gift than he does. I don't know. Okay, therefore, you have to arouse this love to God. How do you do this? This is the whole idea of Shira Shirin. This is the whole sentence. This is the whole book of the Song of Songs that King Solomon wrote. How to arouse this love. Like it says, if you wake up, if you get aroused, you have to arouse this love. How do you do it? They call Dodi Dofik. This is by means of the sound of my beloved is knocking. Another sentence in song, in the Song of Songs. The sound of my beloved is knocking. God is knocking on our heart, asking, open up. That's what the rabbis say. Anshi Yericho, the people of Jericho, the wise men, Hoya Korchim et the Shema. Excuse me. Then nowadays, when we say Shema Yisrael, it's a commandment in the Torah to say Shema Yisrael twice. What does it mean? It's a sentence in the Torah, not far away from the giving of the Torah, where it says that God appeared to us face to face. Parshas Ve'et Hanan in the book of Deuteronomy. So Shema Yisrael means very simply, it's the motto of Judaism. Shema means understand the Jews. God is our God. God is one. It's a command to understand God. You have to try to understand. And then after that, it says that as soon as you say that, the next sentence is in the Bible. If you look in the Bible, the next sentence in the Bible after Shema Yisrael, understand Jews, God is our God, God is one, it says you will love God with all of your heart. Well, the rabbis instituted that between this Shema and saying loving God, there's another sentence saying Bruch Shem Kavod Malchut Olam V'ed. Blessed is the name of the glory of the kingship of God forever and ever. It's a sentence they instituted, put in the middle. And it says the people in Jericho, why? Why? Because to say Shema Yisrael, that God is one, this is a very deep intellectual idea. To love God, the next sentence, you should love God, that's emotional. That's already not so high and intellectual. Intellect you can talk about all day until you get to emotions. It's a different story. Like I always say, the marriage counselor that goes home and beats his wife. The marriage counselor gives everybody the right ideas, right? But he didn't take it himself to heart. He just has it in his mind. The same thing is here, to understand that God is one, or God is creating us, and all these wonderful things, but to take it to our heart and love God, that's the next sentence, to love God, that's difficult. It's a difficult thing to do. So therefore, the rabbis instituted that between this first sentence and the second sentence, they put in another sentence which says, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchut Olam V'ed. And they said this is a sentence that Jacob said when he realized that all of his sons still worship God. He said, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchut Olam V'ed. Okay, but the people of Jericho, they left that sentence out, that sentence that was put in by the rabbis, they left it out. They didn't separate between God is one and love. Because when they thought about God, when they thought about that God is one, is truly one, that there's nothing except for him, automatically they came to love. In other words, they felt it was really real what they were thinking about. God is really creating me. Without stopping. I'm thinking about something and I'll tell you what this is. I don't know if I told you this, but I'll tell you again. Okay, and therefore, Messiahim, emes v'yatziv. What does it mean? Yatziv. Yatziv is the Aramaic word for truth. Truth means something that's eternal, founded, and yatziv means something that's founded, firm. Shel emet. And l'she'omin b'lashon targum, you say it in Lashon Aramaic to say shehu God, that God is one. He's the true one. Bein begashmius, whether in the physical world or in spiritual world. In Aramaic, it's like physical, not a holy language. There's nothing except for God. Let me just, I don't know if this is a good example, but I'll tell it anyway. I remember when I was a young kid, television was just beginning, man. It was like in the 50s. There was a program called This Is Your Secret, or This Is Your, I don't know what it was. Anyway. So they had this fellow, they gave him paint and they gave him a wall, and they said a small wall, and they said, you have to paint this wall. It was maybe, like 5 feet long or something, paint this wall. And they said there's somebody on the other side of the wall, and he's also painting. And if you finish before he does, then you get $500 or $1,000. But if you don't finish, if the other, then he gets the $1,000. It's a race. Who's going to finish first? So then they say, and the only people on the listeners on the television, they hear, little does Mr. Jones know, but on the other side of this wall is his father that he has not seen for over 30 years. So they're going to make this emotional reunion, right, between him and his father. So the music starts. And he starts painting. He's frantically painting, and he's careful not to leave any space open because they say, hey, he didn't do that. So he's painting and he's painting, feverishly painting. And he finishes doing the whole wall in like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. And his father, who has been informed of this whole thing, that is going to be his meeting his son. So he finishes, and there he is. His father is also finishes, and he's standing opposite his father, face to face. And they say, Mr. Jones, this man standing opposite you, this is your father you have not seen for 30 years. And he said, yeah, but I finished first, right? I got the $1,000, right? I won. And it was his father, but it didn't really get to his heart. What got to his heart was money. Money. He knows what to do with his money. It's your father, though. It's your father, Mr. Jones. He says, yes, you will get the money. You'll get the money. He gave it to him in his hand. He looks at it and says, Dad, oh, yeah, Dad. And then they hug each other. Okay. In other words, people, you can say Shema Yisrael all you want to, and you can realize that God is your father, but you want the world. The world is here. What am I going to get out of it? So in order to really feel this oneness of God, that God is creating you, it's not such an automatic or simple thing. But it says the people of Jericho, it was. This is only in the understanding the greatness of God. But contemplating the greatness of God in your mind. We're talking about going out of Egypt. They came by means of this spiritual Egypt. You can arouse your emotions, love and fear, in a revealed of your heart. In the depth of your mind, and get aroused. But a person whose brain is small, and he can't get excited about God, but machshavto in his mind, to love, to arouse this love, right? Hine, behold, zot etzato, this is the advice. Emuna litzok el Hashem, to cry to God, but tefillah. When we're thinking about, right, there's people like, for instance, that they can go to a play, see a movie, read a book, you cry. Oh, so beautiful. He came back. He saved his son, and he was willing to give his life for his wife's life or something like that. He's crying, right? But you close the book, and it's not you. You got interest. The guy was a good writer, a good actor. You saw something, and you saw something, it reminded you of something. But here the Rebbe is trying to tell us, no, one second, we're not talking about a movie. We're not talking about a good author. We're not even talking about money. We're talking about God is really creating us. It's like the guy with his father. So he's my father, so what? Right? What's there to love? I want the money right now. My father's going to stay here. To think about it's my father, he has to think deeply. He has to remember something, what it is. He has to awaken this natural, deep love that every child has for their parents. Right? Don't listen to what the whatever it is, the modernists say, or whatever, the wokists, or the Freudians, and say. The fact is, every child has a love for their parents. Parents have a love for their children, which is even more. But every child has a love for their parents. It's a natural thing. You have to wake it up. You have to awaken it. Okay, this is talking about your physical father, and that's also not so easy. Here we're talking about your true father that's creating your spirit and your body and your eyes and the world. This is it's a nice idea to understand. We can read about it. I can get excited also. But to actually feel it, this is difficult. That's what one of the purposes of prayer is. To cry out to God in prayer. We're not talking about screaming necessarily. We're talking about crying out that your heart cries out. Like it says, Sak libam. Your heart cries out. When you say words, this arouses your intention. Galut, and an arousal, to arouse the love and a revelation of your heart. This is called Egypt. That's Mitzrayim. This is the going out of wisdom, to bring this wisdom from your brain into your heart. There is a narrow place. This narrow place is called Egypt. And this is Meitzer HaGaron. That's how God made the human beings, that we have a head and we have a heart, and separating between the head and the heart, there's this narrow place, which is called your throat. That's the crying out to God. Charona means also, Charon means to be hoarse. Garon and Charon, it's really one thing. It's narrowness, like it's known to people who know the secrets. One more sentence. This is the idea of bitter. What did it say that it says that the Egyptians, they made their heart bitter by Yamuru et Chayehem. That's the first sentence. Second sentence in this week's Torah portion. That's this idea of bitterness. That's the bitterness that we should feel for being in Egypt. We are in the world. God is creating us, and we don't feel it at all. All we feel is ourselves. That's Egypt. That's narrow. That our emotions are all trapped in our own egotism. We don't feel really godliness. We finished the wall. There was no wall standing us. Here's our father we haven't seen for 30 years standing in front of us. Say, yeah, but I won. I get my money, right? If this is your father, you said, "Hi, Dad, how you doing? Just 1 second. You got the money. You got the. You remember you thought he was dead. Remember he saved your life. It's your father. Remember you were sick. He saved you. You were in prison. He rescued you. This. Yeah, good. Just 1 second. Stop talking. Give me my money, and then we'll talk about it. He's thinking about the money. That's exactly what we do. The love that a person, the appreciation, the satisfaction that a person gets from money is absolutely incomparable to the satisfaction that a person can get from loving his father and seeing his father and being united with his father. If he realizes what it means love, if he realizes what it means father, what it means reuniting. But that love that a child has for a father has for a child, is a father, mother, same thing. There's nothing like it. There's no comparison in the world. A person that doesn't have that experience, that feeling, he's not really experiencing life. He's missing a big chunk of reality. And a bigger chunk of reality if we don't realize what God is. Because God's love for us is infinitely, infinitely greater than any parent could possibly love his children. God is creating us. And this refers to non-Jews also. That's what we're here to educate the world. But first of all, we have to go out of Egypt ourselves and educate ourselves. And that we'll talk about, God willing, tomorrow. And now let's do the Devar Malchut.